Okay.
Hello and welcome to the High Press, and this is the Transfer Kings Revealed, where we've got myself as the host, Dino, and three reprobates. We've got... Oh, sorry, just hold on a sec. I've got my bloody thing on in the background. I've done an ant here. Done an ant. Right. So, welcome, Charlie, my brother. How you doing?
Yeah, mate, I'm good. No, pleasure to be here. Yeah, I've been getting some banter from Forest fans most of this week, but yeah, all good fun, and yeah, looking forward to getting stuck into it, mate.
Good. And I've got John, my brother from another mother. How are you doing?
Yes, all right, Dino. How's it going?
You just need some glasses, mate. You just need some glasses. And
hang on
I've
a
got
second.
a brother from another planet, basically.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. That's looking good, boys.
Oh, there we go.
Hold on.
I'll take those off shortly because I don't really need them for my computer screen. But yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, obviously we had beat the drop back on Monday, which was great fun. So happy to join this one.
There you go. You are actually my brother now.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
So the format today, guys, and hi chat, how are you? Just get your comments in there. Hi all, how are you doing? Let's get some banter going today. Just remember who we've got in the chat. We've got a Chelsea supporter in Charlie. So just remember what happened at the weekend. He's had loads of grief all week on Twitter. So please continue that grief if you're a Forest supporter. So the format is I've picked 12 clubs out of the 20 in the Premier League to shortlist. I've not bothered with the likes of Sheffield and Luton and people like that. That's had a shocking transfer window. So I've selected 12. We're going to go through those 12. And these three guys are going to then shortlist them into 4. And this is where I want to get the chat involved at the end. Right at the end, you're going to take those 4. I'm going to stick them in a poll. And then you're going to vote on who the winner is. Okay? So let's start with the 12. Let's just switch screens. Okay, so... First of all, we've got Arsenal. So they're one of my shortlisted. So net spend at the bottom, by the way, is how much they've spent. So if it appears in white, they're in the red, basically. So they spent 124.7 million pound more than they let out. And if they're in the green, it means they made a profit. Okay. So probably quite topical, I think. Kai Havertz, after his wonderful show in America when he couldn't hit a barn door from 2 feet with the challenges they did. Charlie, I think that's a good question for you. How do you think that? I mean, are you happy that you got rid of the dud?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, I think from a Chelsea perspective, he come in with a big reputation from Leverkusen. We spent big money on him, and yeah, he just didn't do it. Yeah, obviously he got the goal in Porto, which we'll obviously be forever grateful for, of course. But in terms of what he was brought in to do, he just didn't do it. It's all this conversation about what's his best position and all that sort of thing. He's into his 4th season in the Premier League now, and that conversation is still doing the rounds. At some point, there needs to be a realization that, do you know what, maybe this lad just isn't it. Like, I'm not saying he's not a good footballer. He's clearly a good player, good technically. Maybe the Premier League's just not for him because, we've got quite a large sample size now. I'm not someone that writes players off after 2 minutes. Like this is a decent sample size. 3 years at Chelsea, and we're now going to go into his first year at Arsenal. Yeah, it's a new team and stuff, but I'm just not sure how he fits in. And ultimately, if he goes and does well at Arsenal, then so be it, because he wasn't doing the business at Chelsea. We pretty much got our money back on him. Considering he had 3 poor seasons, I would have expected his value to have plummeted, but we virtually recouped all our money we spent. And yeah, I just think it's a great bit of business. What more can I say? He didn't do it at Chelsea, so to get 65 million quid from him from Arsenal is a result.
It's definitely yeah. It's definitely one of your best bits of business in terms of outgoings. Just to grade, if we're talking about grading Arsenal and how well they've done, one of the best work done. Oh, I've gone, haven't I?
Yeah.
Have I gone again?
Go out and come back in. So basically, I saw your stream earlier, and you're very, very supportive of the club however good or bad they're doing, especially after the defeat against Forest. Sorry to mention that again, but
No, you boys enjoy it. You maybe, do you want to add a third star to your shirt for it?
We have done already. We're stitching them on right now.
Got your DVD ready as well? DVDs in the club shop?
Say again, sorry?
DVDs in the club shop for the win?
Yeah. So what you're basically saying is you really pulled Arsenal's pants down there, didn't you, with that signing?
Well, yes. Yeah, I think so. But to be honest, though, like if he does work out well at Arsenal, two things can be true as well. That we got a great deal for him, and maybe it might work out that they got a great deal as well, potentially. We don't really know. But on the evidence right now, you'd have to say that this is an amazing deal for Chelsea. You know, to get 65 million quid for someone that's had 3 poor years at the club is, it's quite something.
John, another one for you, the Declan Rice one. It seems like a lot of money to me. Do you rate this player?
Yeah, I rate him. Definitely. I think for you to say that, I mean, you know, I'm a Bournemouth fan. I'm not familiar with anyone outside anyone in my top 6 rivalry. Therefore, signed a terrible player kind of thing. He's a good player. There's no doubt that he is a very good player. The thing about Declan Rice is that he has basically replaced Xhaka. And what Xhaka was able to do was actually quite impressive last season for Arsenal in terms of his goal scoring. He developed this attacking side to his game that Arsenal fans weren't really familiar with. Declan Rice has the capability to show himself to be the better player than Granit Xhaka. But as with any transfer, until you've seen him for half a season, you just don't know. So, it's a close one. He could be worth that money, but then is anyone really worth quite as much as 105 million, particularly for a sort of like defensive-ish midfielder that Declan Rice naturally is? I don't think any defensive midfielder really should be worth anywhere close to that money. But Arsenal have paid that money for him, and he's got to now show it. He's already paid it back a little bit with that goal against Man United on the weekend. But I rate the signing, but we'll just have to see whether it was necessarily worth it when we come back to this in 6 months' time.
Yeah. Ez, you okay?
I hope so. Right. So
you're left with Jurrien Timber, my friend, who's now injured, I understand.
Yes. And he got injured against Forest, didn't he, in that opening game? But the point I was trying to make about Arsenal's business is that the good thing is that from their point of view, that they got it done early, especially the Declan Rice deal. I'm still not sold on Kai Havertz. I think Arteta's doing his best to kind of accommodate him, but I don't think it's working. But I won't write him off. Give him a chance. They've obviously spent a lot of money on it, and Chelsea were lucky to get that money back. That was an absolute fantastic deal from their point of view. I'm surprised that Arsenal paid as much as they did for him. But clearly, it was in Arteta's plans for the season going ahead. It hasn't worked so far, but not to say that it can't work. But Declan Rice, we've seen his impact that he's had so far. So from what we got a little bit of benefit of is that we've had a few games seeing some of these players that we're going to be talking about, some of these teams that we're going to be talking about. So that kind of has to go into our thinking in terms of deciding on how well they've done in the window. But I think Arsenal did their business well early on. Jurrien Timber injury is going to be a massive problem and I'm surprised they didn't try and replace it before the window closed. So that's somewhere that I think they're losing marks on from my point of view, because he is a big injury loss. He could be out for the whole season, couldn't he? Potentially.
It could,
It's an ACL, isn't it? Like just on Rice, like I think it's like it's as close to a guarantee as you can get to someone being a success. I think the guy is a phenomenal footballer. Literally for me, like the teams that the two standout midfield players on the market this summer, him and Moises Caicedo, like those were the two best available, in my opinion. I just think of Declan Rice, you can't go wrong. 24 years of age, knows the Premier League inside out. It's got leadership quality. He's only going to get better. He's someone that always wants to learn. You just look at him. He looks like he's been at Arsenal for years and years, and he's played 4 games for the club. Like,
and he came from a shit team, let's be honest.
Yeah. Think of a European trophy, though. But yeah.
Come on. You can't count the Mickey Mouse.
But I just think, I just rate him so highly. Like, I just think, there's no guarantees of any transfers. But, I think signing like Declan Rice is like, is as good a guarantee as you can get. This guy will be phenomenal for Arsenal. But I suppose the one worry for me with Arsenal is, I look at that business and in the starting 11, they've swapped Declan Rice for Granit Xhaka. So you could say, despite Xhaka's good season, that they've upgraded in that position. for sure. That is an upgrade there. Yuri and Timber coming in was a probable upgrade on what they had already, but the rest of the team isn't really upgraded it. It's very much the same. So I look at Arsenal and think, well, how much better has that team actually got? And I know it's early days, but if you're purely basing it on the window, have they made the squad any better? Not really. Have they improved the first 11? Well, yeah, they've upgraded Xhaka to Rice, but that wasn't the difference between them, winning and like trying to win the title. Rice is not going to win them the title. Like, so for me, I like the business they've done, but I'm just struggling to see how much better it's actually made them.
Do you understand the deal that they've done for Raya as well, to bring in another potentially number one goalkeeper and put that pressure on their current number one? Because hopefully it works. Hopefully it brings out the best in both goalkeepers. But it's a loan deal to begin with from Brentford. But I just didn't understand that. I can understand putting having competition for your top place, but I don't think their goalkeeper's done anything wrong, to be honest. And I don't see how Raya gets in. Do you guys make any sense of that particular acquisition?
I do think it's a little bit odd to take a player like Ramsdale. I mean, Ramsdale got in the end. He got in the PFA team of the. Was it the PFA team of the year?
Yeah,
it was a team of the year he got last season. But David Raya, I think David Raya's save percentage gets overblown somewhat. If you look at the amount of saves he had to make that were like, I think he made more saves from shots from outside the box than any other goalkeeper, and it was like double what anyone else was. It was just Brentford are just that good as a defensive block, and they have such a good organisation at the back that Raya didn't have to make as many like massive saves as a lot of other keepers had to, and his save percentage got inflated a little bit because of it. But having said that, he is very good on the ball, although Ramsdale is quite good as well. And the stats actually compare quite nicely with Raya coming out in basically every single aspect. So I would say that it is a slight upgrade. I do have a really soft spot for Ramsdale because he was our team. He was great for us for the 1 year he started for us. Yeah. But it's a difficult one though, because both of them could start for 75% of the teams in the Premier League, and but maybe even half of the big, of the big six. Yeah. So to have two of them like that, one of them's going to be unhappy. So it's it's quite a difficult balancing act to have as a manager.
It's a tricky one. Like you never like. I mean, I don't know if you guys watched it of the Sky Sports coverage, like Michael Richards and Roy Keane having the disagreement about it. But I think like competition can only be a good thing in all positions. Yeah, I know it's slightly different in a goalkeeper because you're not.
They hardly ever do it at goalkeeper though, do they? That's the thing.
Yeah, but look, I don't think it's a bad thing. That's gonna elevate Ramsdale's level even more because he didn't want to lose the shirt anyway. But it's less like it should raise the level. And ultimately, like, why shouldn't you have competition in the goalkeeping spot? You have competition everywhere else on the pitch, and you want quality and strength and depth everywhere else. So why would the goalkeeper position be any different? Yeah, you could question David Raya's thinking behind, well, why'd I leave playing for a good side in Brentford every week to go and sit on the Arsenal bench for a season? Maybe he's been told something differently that, he'll get his opportunity, whether it's in the Champions League or the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup. And then it's up to him to kind of make that shirt his own if he can. But I don't see a problem with having two top goalkeepers, but it's not something you do. It's not something you see that often, to be fair. There's normally is a clear 1 and 2, or you have a 1 and a 1.5.
The only Ramsdale is among Ballon d'Or's nominees for goalkeepers. Wow. Along with ex-Forest Samba. That's disappointing. So you don't, I'm not feeling the enthusiasm for Arsenal. So are you saying that combined they're not going to be in the top 4 in terms of the best transfer window?
Not in mine.
Not for me either.
No, not for me. I don't think they've got rid of enough players either. Like when you assess the window, you've got to look at both ins and outs. Like for me, for me, look, it's decent business, but there's definitely teams that had better windows in them.
Yeah, and I do think they overpaid for Havertz. Declan Rice, again, they were held to ransom, but that seems to be the going rate for CDMs this season. 100 million plus if you want to get a top quality one. Yeah. But I do think they overpaid for Havertz. That drops their rating down for me. Timber being injured and not being replaced, that also drops it down for me. And I think in terms of what they held on to, I think holding on to Partey was a good thing for him, even though he's injured at the moment. I think that was a big deal for them. Balogun, who's been highly touted around Europe for a long, long time, never really got the chance and was never going to get the chance. So he had to make his way. He's gone to Monaco, as you can see on there. I think we did well to get Matt Turner. And I think we've got Tavares as well from Arsenal. Yeah. So there's a few reasons why I wouldn't grade him within my top 4. Certainly not.
Just so you know, chat, I've not put everybody on because there's just so many ins and outs. Yeah, there's like loan players and people going on loan. I've kind of picked the ones that have brought in the money. So, i.e., Raya on loan. Was he on loan, Raya?
Yeah, it's 3 million.
Yeah.
3 million
loan fee.
And so, I'm sorry, Arsenal, you don't make it. If you disagree in the chat and you think Arsenal have had a good window, just drop in. Or if you agree with us again, just drop that in as the comments. So now we move on to Liverpool. Now, Liverpool kind of, if you look at the outs, they kind of demolished their midfield in 1 year. And then rebuilt it in 1 year again. That's might cause them problems in terms of getting in the top 4 this season, just bedding these people in, with Ryan Gravenberch being the last one in. So, I mean, pick John. You want to start this one? You pick an in there that you know and you like, or you don't think is a good sign-in for Liverpool.
I think they're all good signings, without a doubt. The one that I suppose I'll pick on here, just because it's probably one of the main reasons why I won't have them in my top 4, is Wataru Endo, because I don't think he's a bad player, and certainly his stats show up quite favourably from his time in Stuttgart. He's a reliable player. He doesn't get injured very often, which is a massive boost to what obviously the injuries that they had over the last season for Liverpool. But when you look at who they were going for and who they didn't get versus what they ended up settling with, because Wataru Endo is the player that you settle for. Then he's not the first choice. He's not the second. He's not the third. He's probably not even your first 6 choices. So the fact that that's who they've ended up with as who will most likely be their number 6 going forward as the holding midfielder in their 3, although rumours are that Klopp is going to try and put Gravenberch into that 6th position, which I don't see at all, because Gravenberch is a box-to-box player. Endo, yeah. These managers overthink everything, don't they? So Endo, I just look at Endo as that, he's fine and he will do a good job for them. He will do a solid job. But what they were going for when they missed out on Lavia, when they went for Caicedo at the last second and didn't get him, although that may well have been a blessing in disguise, we'll see for whatever he ended up going for. But to end up with Endo, I just feel as though that's one of the reasons why, when all they've done is work on the midfield and they didn't get their top targets again, when they missed out on Bellingham and Chouameni last season, Endo's a bit of a, not disappointment, but a frustration, I would say.
Yeah, and isn't he 29 or something? Which is
30, I think.
30. Which I saw as a bit strange, because when I saw the clips of him, I thought, well, he looks a decent player. And then I saw his age and I thought, I didn't think Liverpool liked that, getting rid of some of the players like the end of the contract that you can see on the right-hand side.
But if he's a rotation option, though, I don't...
He's played, hasn't he, this season as well?
It's not what Liverpool wanted, absolutely clear. But I think it took a lot of people by surprise. But actually, if you think about it, 16 million quid in this market is absolutely nothing for for anyone. I think if he's just going to be a rotational player, be a squad option, start the odd game here or there, maybe come on, I don't think that's a complete disaster. Yes, they didn't get the targets they wanted, but I think in McAllister, fantastic player. We can all agree on that. I think Szoboszlai is a top player as well. Gravenberch, had great potential at Ajax, didn't probably went to Bayern Munich too early in his career, probably could have developed a couple more years at Ajax, didn't really get much of a chance at Munich, but there's 100% a top player. Now, I agree with John, he's not really a number 6, he's more of a box-to-box. He can play as a 6, but it's not his natural position. Maybe Klopp can coach that into him. I don't really know. But I look at Liverpool's window and I think they probably could have done with another centre-back maybe. Joel Matip, I think his legs are gone. Konate's made of glass. Joe Gomez is not really it. Van Dijk is not what he used to be. I think they could have done with another one there. Going forward, they're fantastic. I think the midfield actually, in the end, despite missing out on Caicedo and Lavia, they've not done that bad a job there. Look, it's not a terrible window, but I think there's probably a couple of positions for me that they could have added, which would have really helped them.
Well, it could be a terrible window, Ez.
It could be. So
close till
tomorrow.
It's 10 p.m. our time, 12 p.m. their time. So tomorrow, and they've put So the offer I saw was 170 million upfront with 45 million in add-ons, and he'd be on over he'd be on over 2.5 million a week. Tax.
So when's he out of contract?
A week.
Yeah,
a week.
Yeah.
2.5 million a week they're offering him now. He is without doubt the poster boy for the Muslim world in terms of football. And he would be the biggest coup. I think Liverpool are going to find it very hard to turn it down. There's stupid rumors I'm hearing that they're going to go in for Mbappe with that money in January, and apparently Mbappe's interested. I don't know how true that side of it is, but the window's still open, and there's still every possibility that one of the most prolific goal scorers in this league, the second most prolific goal scorer in this league after we've already lost Harry Kane, could be out by the end of tomorrow. So it's still there. The offer's still there. I think they're going to find it very hard to turn that money down. So in terms of the outgoings, the window's not finished yet. But if you have a look at who they've lost in this window, age-wise, they'll be happy with that. Most of these players are the wrong side of 30. Naby Keita was one that was a real disappointment. He just never did it, did he? He never hit. Always injured, and when he did get his chance, he never really made an impact. So I don't think they'll mind losing him. James Milner seems to be a fantastic addition for Brighton. He's just solidified them. He's just solidified them. He's just solidified Brighton even more, in my opinion. But I don't think they'll mind losing any of those players, but they're going to have a big trouble if they do end up losing Salah. Have you guys seen any of those reports, and do you think there's still a possibility that he could go?
Possibility for sure. I think whatever happens, I think it's obvious that this is going to be Salah's last season at Liverpool anyway. Whether he goes tomorrow or whether he goes next summer, this for sure is his last season. And you know what? I don't blame him for wanting to go if he goes, because he's done everything there is in the game. There's nothing else for him to prove. You know, if he wants to go and secure that money, go and be the poster boy for the Saudi League, he's the most marketable, Muslim player on the planet. It makes sense, that's kind of the most obvious signing for the Saudi League out there. It's the most obvious one. I think that Klopp's always maintained he's not for sale, but I think that goes above Klopp, doesn't it? If FSG, if there's 215 million there, then how do you say no to that? Liverpool, for me, will finish in the Champions League places with or without Mo Salah. So I don't see that affecting their season detrimentally this time round, but. And that amount of money can, it can provide a lot of funds for a rebuild.
Have they been a little foolish, really? Because they at start of a window, Klopp was, I've got no money. Didn't put the offers in for the likes of Caicedo at the time, even for Lavia, and ended up getting those players pinched off them by basically claiming that they were poor. They didn't have the money to pay for them. But all of a sudden, they have got this money. They've definitely, if we're going to shortlist players, by the way, sorry, I just want to make sure I don't forget. Szoboszlai would definitely be in there for me. I think he's one of the best additions this season. But in terms of the money that they've ultimately ended up spending, was he wrong to not put those offers in early doors? Because obviously, like I said, Chelsea ended up taking both those CDMs. I like Wataru Endo, but like you guys said, he's a backup CDM. He shouldn't be your main CDM. And a player like Sangare, who Forest signed and Liverpool were interested in, would have been a far better fit for that midfield. So I downgrade them just purely because I still think, I agree with Charlie, I think they needed another centre-back as well. I think their defence is going to be poorer this season, and they definitely needed to put a more solid player in that CDM position. But I don't know if you guys agree on that, but that for me would take their points down in terms of finishing in my top four. They don't finish in my top four either.
Well, they've obviously signed some decent players and obviously let some older players go that kind of have done what they've got to do at Liverpool. On the face of it, it looks like a good window, but is it just patching up plaster that, like say that they must have known of some interest in Salah, and they did need a centre back. I agree, Charlie. Also, so is it a good transfer? Do they make the top four, Liverpool?
Probably not.
Not for me.
No.
Yeah. Well, I'd say
we are going to end up with the top four, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. So the one thing I would just say is, just before you go, is that we'll move on to the next one. Is that you look at the players that have gone out, and obviously Endo is replacing Fabinho. that's a downgrade. Even if Fabinho had a terrible year, that is a downgrade.
Yeah.
And what you've lost with Jordan Henderson is the club captain. What you lost with Naby Keita was at least experience, someone who'd been around the club for a while. James Milner, incredible behind the scenes. Fabinho, I think, is a really like that was a player they should have replaced in terms of like that does that role that's very difficult to fill, but you've got the money to fill it, and you've got to try and find the option. Basically, what they did is they didn't buy a midfielder last year, panicked, and really messed things up, and it's massively hindered them. What they've made sure they filled in this time is made sure they've massively invested into the midfield. But even then, like you said, what they offered the like Southampton wanted what 50 million for Lavia, and Liverpool went, okay, we'll do 45. No, okay, we'll do 46. No, okay, we'll do 47. And then Chelsea went, here's 60, and Liverpool panicked and realised they'd missed out on the guy they should have just given 50 mil for, and they would have got him. So they've done a terrible version. They've really not done well enough in this window when they could. They've done okay, but they could have done better.
So I think we're all agreed.
Into our top four. Let's move on. Liverpool have made it into our top four. Chat, if you disagree with that, just drop it in the comments for me. Also, while you're around, there's a ticker on the bottom with all the guys' channels on. Please go and follow them. I was on a Blue Brother CFC Charlie's stream earlier. Really good stream. Let's support each other in the community. The fan channel communities are growing like crazy now, so let's just all go and support each other.
And just hit the like button, guys.
Subscribe this video because I'm sure there's like 5 likes so far.
No, it's 12. It's not 13.
Is there? Come on, guys.
13 likes. That's poor.
That's not bad.
Come on, guys. Come on, Charlie. Charlie, you've done really well, in fact, calling the likes and in your last few live streams. Let's do it, Charlie style.
They always
Charlie on the likes. Right, okay. Here we go then. Man City. Are they perfection in the transfer window as they are on the pitch? Or do you think they've made some mistakes with letting some good players out?
No, I think this is a good window for City. I'll tell you why. Because one thing that Man City do, right, and people always do this, they're like, when they see the business they do, see the players that are leaving, they're like, oh, Man City are going to be weaker this year, or they're going to struggle. City notoriously start the seasons quite slowly. They just won 4. They've won 4 on the spin. They don't normally start that well. And you look at the window, right, and you could say with Riyad Mahrez going, with Ilkay Gundogan going, 2 of their better performers over the years. Gundogan certainly, like, unbelievable player, particularly like in the running, he just comes alive and it's just a different animal. You lose those 2 players, and people start saying, I wonder if they're going to be that good. Laporte, another top player, wasn't really getting a look in there. But one thing City do, and they do it really well, is they know the right time to move players on. And when you've just won a treble, you do need to refresh the squad. You need some new heads in there, fresh motivation and that sort of thing, because it's really hard to go again. When you win, it's hard to have that motivation to go again. Get some new faces. And one thing City do really well is, as I said, they buy well. When was the last time Man City had a signing that you looked at and you thought they were dreadful? Very rarely get any signings wrong. He's pretty poor, isn't he? Yeah, they very rarely sign any duds, and they always bring in decent players. And all the money they've spent, they don't actually sign players for extortionate fees in this day and age. What, one player, £100 million in Jack Grealish, which was a release clause, so they had to pay that. Otherwise, you look at the business there. Doku, one of the most exciting young talents in Europe. Vardiol, probably one of the best centre-backs in Europe right now. Kovacic, obviously he wanted a new challenge. Very good signing. And Mateus Nunes, a fantastic signing as well. So you look at that and you just think, it's a fantastic window. And the money they've managed to bring in from a few players as well, the Saudi market helping them out, I just think this is a good window for them. They always seem to get it right.
Charlie, while you mentioned it, I just want to get your opinion on Kovacic, because that was the one that probably surprised me the most, that actually Chelsea let him go. I think he's a fantastic signing for Man City. I think he works really well. Were you surprised to see him go as much as I was surprised to see Man City get him?
No, I wasn't surprised to see him go. Like, from a Chelsea perspective, he done well for us, of course, but his performances have been on the decline for 12 months. His fitness was poor. He was missing a lot of games through injury. And he wanted a new challenge. It was time to move him on. He's a sort of perfect kind of Pep Guardiola player where his kind of lack of output in terms of goals and assists is not going to be a problem in a Man City team, because they've got other players that will go and do that for you. At Chelsea, when you need goals and assists from your midfield players, and because they're not really coming from any forward players at that point in time, that's really highlighted his lack of end product, or his lack of contribution. So look, I wasn't surprised to see him go. The writing had been on the wall for a while. Performances have declined, as I said, And look, to get 30 million quid from what I think he had a year left on his contract, or maybe 2 years. I think it's good business for Chelsea, and it's good business for City. So I weren't surprised to see him leave. No,
John, look at the net spend there, 75.5 million. Obviously, for that to happen, they're going to let players go, and they've let obviously a couple of young players go. James Trafford, and I've got a comment here about Palmer. Now, I'm not personally surprised that they let Palmer go, because Haaland's young, isn't he? And they've got Alvarez as well. And I mean, it's really dead man's shoes, isn't it? There. I mean, do you think Palmer he obviously wanted football, didn't he? Elsewhere, he wanted first team football.
Yeah, so we went to Chelsea, where he's definitely going to get game time. And he would have got it at Man City. This is the thing that confuses me about that deal. On both sides, or all three sides. The thing is like, I understand where you're coming from with this one. In terms of like, you look at that and you can say Man City have improved. I really don't think they have in that. I think they've maintained. But now what I grant you is that when you've won a treble, you've kind of done everything. So you need something to change, because otherwise you just plateau. And if you plateau in this league, you fall behind. But Man City are so far in front, they can kind of afford to a little bit in a way. Because when you're looking at who's replacing who, Gvardiol for Laporte, I think over the next couple of years is going to be a fantastic deal. But for right now, it's an interesting one. Jeremy Doku coming in, his stats are unbelievable as one of the best dribblers in the world, but he's a right-footed right winger. He plays differently to both Mahrez and Palmer, so that changes up how they can attack down their right-hand side. Is that necessarily going to work in the same way that they've been relied on Bernardo Silva and Mahrez, and how I thought Palmer would work for them? Matthias Nunez really confuses me, because I don't entirely know what he's done to earn himself a £53 million move. And then the big one, as well, probably the biggest one, is Mateo Kovacic, and a lot of City fans are loving what he's doing at the moment. But compare him to Gundogan. When Man City really needed a player to just get them a goal from nowhere,
clutch player.
Gundogan was the clutch. Like if anyone deserved that nickname in world football, it would be Ilkay the Clutch Gundogan. It was unbelievable the amount of times he just dug them out of a hole when they looked like they were struggling. And to be fair, Rodri scored a couple of those as well over the season too.
The only issue that I've got with Doku is he feels like a bit like a Saint Maximin to me. Dribbles like crazy, and his real lack of end product.
Well,
I did a whole video on him. His end product's terrible.
That. But yeah, just in I just think when you look at compare player for player, like who's replacing, obviously Nunez isn't necessarily replacing anyone in particular.
I'd say Nunez was more of a Gundogan replacement than Kovacic is.
Yes, I'd agree.
But I'd say Kovacic is the sort of like can play deeper, helps bring the ball out from the back, whereas Nunez. Like I'm less familiar. To be fair, I'm less familiar with his game, and obviously I was quite impressed by Wolves against Man United in their opening fixture from their midfield. But Nunez is more of closer to the 10, which Gundogan was definitely plays deeper than that and combines more with and brings the ball out from the back a lot more. But I will see what Pep Guardiola does with Nunez. But I think that I was very tempted, because I feel as though there are certainly limitations in terms of the changes that they made and necessarily whether it's going to maintain them at their level. But really, because they're so far in front, they don't have to say, you don't have to sign players to say this is guaranteed improvement, because it's almost impossible to do that. So the fact that they have pretty much maintained means that they've had a fantastic window.
So it sounds pretty positive to me from the three of you. Do Man City make it into the top 4 for you?
No, let me throw my 2 pennies worth. And they don't for me, because I think with Man City and with a lot of his signings, you don't really see the benefit of them till a season or two later. Doku's going to be one of those. He's not going to assimilate him straight into the team like he didn't do with Grealish, and he hasn't done with Foden either. Now you're seeing the best of those players. We saw the best of Grealish last season, who won the treble. So he couldn't have done much more than that. Cole Palmer, I think, he's been a little bit impatient, because he's got so much. He's only 19, isn't he, Charlie?
Oh, he's 21.
No, he's 21.
Oh, he's 21. Okay. I really think he needs to be playing at Chelsea, because he made the difference for me. He made a difference when he came on the weekend. I felt like he looked good. He started going a bit deeper to get the ball eventually, but he started off really promising for me. So he's one that I think Man City lose points on for me. I think they should have done more to try and hold on to him, because he's got enough time. If he's patient in that Pep Guardiola setup, he'll get his chance. And I think he's just been impatient. So with a lot of these, even with Guardiola, I'm surprised he's thrown them in so soon. I think you won't see the benefit of these signings until maybe after Christmas or into the next season. I don't think Doku's going to be thrown in straight away. He reminds me more of a former Man City player, like a Jesus Navas. He's a proper right winger. You know, he just needs to improve his distribution and get an end result. But I'm sure that's what Pep does. He brings these players in, he molds them, he gets them. He doesn't throw them straight in. He gives them the time, and I think we won't see the benefits. So it's hard for me to grade them in the top 4, because I don't think we'll see the benefits of some of these signings till maybe later on down. So if we don't make it to my top 4, but I think John and Charlie have got them in their top 4.
I'm relying on you two then to get them into the top 4. Man City aren't used to being out the top 4. Come on.
No, I've got them in.
Okay.
I think I've got them
John, come on.
in my list.
Did I make a
Man City man? I'm jealousy.
I think.
Did I change your mind, John?
You got the casting vote here, my friend.
I was going to say, did I help change your mind or not?
No, it's no,
because
it's like I'm going to be
City
accused
top 4 or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm probably going to have to just for the time being. We'll put them in there, but I mean, it's. I think we'll go through and we'll have more discussions on this, because I don't want to nail down for definite who is in my top 4 right now until we've.
They're a placeholder then.
All right.
I think they should.
Man
definitely
City are on
placeholder in
hold.
there.
Villa, not a lot of outs to discuss, but ins. Now their net spend is quite low, but there's obviously some undisclosed in there, so that's why the figures don't match up from my table. But the net spend is very accurate. But the table, obviously, some undisclosed that you can't tell how much there were. So, Charlie, any pick of the mix for your ends there?
I think Moussa Diaby's a great signing. Really, really good player. I think even Yuri Tielemans on a free. I know he's not played an awful lot, but there is immense quality in him. Zaniolo, another one of those guys that has got a lot of talent. Lost his way a little bit, you could say. Went to Galatasaray from Roma. I think he won the Turkish league, done okay there in his one season. Pau Torres is a established centre half, good player. I think there's a lot to like in this window from Aston Villa so far. Yeah, it's been a mixed start to the season. 2 decent wins at home, but convincingly beaten in both their away games, despite how tough they were. Look, I like the business they've done. It's now up to Emery, who is a very good manager and I think gets disrespected really, to get this to all work, because he's got the ingredients there to make a team that can definitely push for the top 6, top 7, and should win the Conference League.
Interesting. Diaby, John, maybe in for the signing of the season overall.
Oh, right up there as one of the signings of the season. His numbers in the Bundesliga last year were ridiculous. I think, Diaby. I think my thoughts on Villa, after having thought it through a bit and seen their early start to the season, is that I've basically gone decent squad additions with one outstanding signing. But when I look at the rest of it, I go, Pau Torres, okay, he's meant to be the guy that's going to progress the ball for them. And we've already seen that he's mucked that up enough times. And losing Mings for him defensively is a nightmare for Villa. They will concede far more set pieces than they ever did last season because you've got Pau Torres in there. Clement Longley didn't really do it at Spurs on loan last season, so he's actually dropped further down the pecking order to go on loan to be a 3rd or 4th choice at Villa. Nicola Zaniolo will probably be out for 3 months within the next 5 games because his injury record is diabolical. Yuri Tielemans is fine, but he's not really didn't do anything last season. And then Rico Richards is a youngster. He was released from West Brom. So I'd say like Moussa Diaby just turns their window from maybe a 5 up to like a 7 or an 8.
Yeah, but is it enough though, guys? Is it enough?
Not for my top 4, definitely not.
Not for John's. They're the ones. I got a short list of a top 4 or 5, and they're the ones on the border for me. I totally agree with what the guys have said. Moussa Diaby for me is one of the top signings of the entire transfer window. I think rumor is about 40-45 million that we paid for him, which is an absolute bargain when you look at some of the other players that have been bought in and money that it's been spent. But I've been disappointed with, because we've had the chance to see some of these players in action, I've been disappointed with some of the signings, and Pau Torres would be top of that list for me. I think he's looked like a liability, to be honest, for him. He initially had him in my FPL, but he was straight out. But there are exciting players that we've bought in. My problem for them is that what Emery always does is focus too much on Europe, and it might cost them their league position this season. Because I think they can definitely win the Conference League, but have they got the squad for that? I'm not so sure. They're on the border of my 4. I'll see what the other guys say. I think John's already said no, hasn't he? So it's down to Charlie.
Charlie basically is the Moussa Diaby tipping it over into the top 4, because without him, they probably wouldn't have made my top 12.
No, not quite for me. I think they just miss out, in my opinion. I like the business they've done, but I just don't think it's quite enough for me to make the top 4.
And just a quick one on selling Cameron Archer to Sheffield United. Don't get that one at all. Don't get that one at all. There's something about him, for whatever reason, Emery doesn't rate him, because Cameron Archer has shone in the Championship, and I think he is genuinely good competition for Watkins, because they don't have a replacement for him. If Watkins goes down injured,
great signing for Sheffield
who
United.
have they got up front to play for them? So I don't get that Cameron Archer one.
John, do you think he's another player who's just had enough of waiting? He wants his chance, and he's basically forced his move, because he's been to the last 2 seasons they've talked about bringing him in, and he's not again been given the minutes that I think I agree with you that he deserves in the first team. Do you think that's
I think if he'd had any reassurances that he was going to get some maybe cup games, if he was going to be decent competition, if he was going to be the option when Watkins needed resting, I think he would have stuck around. But the fact that he has shown he can do it in the Championship for 2 different loan spells, I'm fairly certain.
Yeah.
He needs Premier League game time, and he come in Sheffield United. He immediately gets 1 goal. They got a goal and an assist, and was unlucky not to get 2, given that one of them obviously goes down as an own goal for Pickford. But I just don't get that signing, and that brings it down a bit for me as well.
So you're a no as well. So that's a no for Villa. Charlie, you're getting a bit sticky here, my friend.
Mate,
Charlie
I've got one.
You can't have Chelsea. You know.
I've
signed players for it.
I've got one in. I've got more than everyone in the top. I've got City. I don't think anyone else put anyone in.
You got Chelsea first team. The 23s, the 15s, or the 12s.
I'm the only one that's not put anyone in the top 4 yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, there you go then. There you go. Right now, this is a weird one for me. Because FFTV had this. I think it was the Beat the Drop, wasn't it? This got the best transfer window, did it, on Beat the Drop?
Yes.
I personally don't get it. So please explain to me why this is a good window for West Ham. John, do you want to start?
I've kind of also slightly. You'll see by my choices, I've slightly weighted it to clubs that have sold incredibly well. As well in terms of my top 4. But I just think that Declan Rice, you knew they were going to sell him, and they weren't going to sell him for more than 100 million, and they hit that. They got the 105, they waited it out, and then whilst it took them some time, they then got that replacement in. And you cannot replace Rice with 1 player. So what do? They replaced him with 2. Edson Alvarez and James Ward-Prowse is a fantastic combination to replace Declan Rice. And also what it means is that you can finally move Souček out, because Souček basically doesn't do anything outside of both boxes.
No.
And he can be a bit of a liability anyway. So what you've now got, exactly.
Sorry.
So now you've got 2 really good players. You've got Ward-Prowse has already got 1 goal and 3 assists, I believe. Edson Alvarez is a very good defensive midfielder coming from Ajax. Mavropanos is a really tidy centre back to pick up. I do really like that signing, and I think 19 million is quite a nice figure for him. The one that I then kind of go, and you look at their outgoings and you think that's Scamacca's dead. Scamacca never worked. Getting 27 million is great. Vlasic wasn't playing. 11 million is great. The one that sort of maybe the only one I've got a bit of a question mark on is Kudus. Not because he's not a great player, because he's a quality player. But we've already seen Scamacca didn't work. Kudus could easily, after 6 months, Moyes could go, I don't know what to do with him. It took him 6 months to get Paqueta into the right spot. It was pretty obvious, put him in number 10. But I do wonder whether Moyes is going to mess up what is a very, very good player that he's got on his hand in Kudus. But just in terms of like made a profit, replaced the player they knew they were going to lose with some real quality, spent well. I just think all around it's a really, really solid window.
Okay, interesting. Interesting.
I agree.
Okay, go on, Charlie.
No, I was going to say, I agree. I think, like, obviously, they knew Declan Rice was coming. As John said, they're a little bit slow getting players in. They'd gone quite a while into the window without signing anyone. There are rumours of Moyes and the new sporting director not particularly getting on very well. But then towards the end of the window, they spent the money really well. I'll be honest, I'm surprised that, no disrespect to West Ham, but I'm surprised that other teams weren't in for James Ward-Prowse. They seem to kind of have a bit of a free run to him. Very reliable individual, can perform in the Premier League, has got a great set piece on him, and just a solid performer. He's one of them players. He's not going to do something magical week in, week out, but he's going to be one of those that gives you a 7 out of 10 every week, and you don't really notice him, but he's just a dependable performer. Edson Alvarez, great signing, holding midfield player, got Champions League experience. A good player. And then Kudus, I think, is the kind of the ace in the pack sort of thing, like the real standout signing for a team like West Ham. To be able to get someone like Mohamed Kudus is huge. He can play 9, he can play 10, he can play right wing, he can play as a number 8. They got so many options there with him. I just think this is one of the best windows in the league. Simple as that, for me. Like you see teams so often sell their kind of star man and reinvest the money really poorly. This is an example here for me. I know it's early days, but this is an example here for me where spending money really well and actually upgrading with a bit. Not Declan Rice is not a top class player, but West Ham will be a better team with those 3 players than they will with Declan Rice on the side.
It's a bit like Jono going, isn't it, as at Forest, that frees up some money to buy more strength. Do you agree with the assessment from the guys of actually this has been a top 4 window for West Ham?
Yeah, they'd be in my top 4. I think the fact that they got the money that they set out to get for Declan Rice, they put an offer on the table, or they put an amount on the table. Arsenal met it. It got done early on as well, which I go back to with that deal. I think we've done really well from that point of view, and I think they have spent well. Mohamed Kudus is an unknown from a Premier League point of view, but he is such a versatile front man. Exactly, I think John said it. They can play anywhere across that front line. I think he's built for the kind of football that he's playing this season. They're playing very low block and fast counter-attacking, and it's worked. I think they're unbeaten, aren't they? 10 points from the first 4 games. It's done, and some really cracking away results in that. I think it's working really well, and I think he'd be perfect for the type of play that Moyes is looking for this season. I mean, Antonio's had a fantastic start, but he's definitely a couple of levels above Antonio, and if they can get him firing on all cylinders early on, then that's a great deal. James Ward, just quick point on James Ward-Prowse. He's a player that's just been pigeonholed as a set piece taker, but he's got a lot more to his game. Like Charlie quite rightly said, he's a bang on 7 out of 10 at least every game, and then you've got the added advantage of his set piece taking as well on top of that. So I think that's a really good signing. Surprised more players didn't come in. For me, they're in my top 4, and I think the guys agree with me. I think this is first one where we've all agreed on. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you persuaded me. Quality rather than quantity, I think, with the West Ham. So they're now hot running favourites. Do you agree, chat? Put it in the comments. Here's an interesting one, and I love everybody at FFTV knows I love Brighton. I keep going on about how they've got like a production machine of young, good buys from South America, and they just get a lot of money from them. Now, Brighton actually topped the league in terms of profit. West Ham made a profit, and there's only 2 teams in the 20 that made a profit. One was West Ham and one was Brighton. By far, Brighton obviously made a lot of that profit on Caicedo. John, let's go to you. So a little bit of a funny mix on the ins there, because they normally like to sign the younger players, don't they? But you see the likes of James Milner on there, some unknowns on there. Bart Verbruggen was fancied by Manchester United at one point, but to be fair, Man United fancied literally every goalie on the planet, didn't they, during the transfer window? So who's your picks on the ins there, John?
I think I'll let others talk a bit more about some of the other ins. For me, another one that just kind of turned up out of nowhere and is definitely one of the signings of the summer is Ansu Fati on loan, because that is if he gets anywhere close to the potential that he showed when he first broke through Barcelona, this will be a magical addition for Brighton. But the reason he's there is because of his horrible injury record recently. So it's a matter of they need to just keep him safe. Don't give him too many minutes. Just slowly ease him into the team, and he will be fantastic. But he does have to get past two of the most outstanding wingers in the league over the last season and a bit in Solly March and Kaoru Mitoma. So we'll see what happens with that one.
He's got a Football Manager there, isn't he, Ansu Fati?
Oh,
Simon, yes, it was.
Absolutely.
I don't know where I got that from. My friend Fiorentina. It was Watford or Watford.
He was at Watford. But I would just talk about the outs as well, because to be honest, I mean, I'll spoiler alert, they're in my top four. But to be honest, selling Moises Caicedo for 150 million on its own might well have put him in my top four, because that is just, to get that much money for a player that's just not worth it, not worth that much, is just ridiculous. And then Robert Sanchez,
you're an accountant.
Was their second?
Are you an accountant?
Well, it's nothing against Chelsea.
Mate,
I just
wonder why you like the teams that make money out of the transfers.
You've also spelt him Moses Caicedo instead of Moises.
And Moises, isn't it? I know.
Call him out, guys.
You know, when you're doing this late at night, you know.
Yeah. But also, just Robert Sanchez was their second choice goalkeeper most of last year. To get 25 million for him is great. Decent one for Chelsea, but just like, he wasn't their first choice, so get 25 million for him is great. And Alexis McAllister, I'm fairly sure the add-ons can jump that up significantly from what I've heard rumors of. But 35 million isn't a lot for a really good player. But they already have his replacement already fully engrossed in Enciso. So just to have this revolving door of just bringing in youngsters to generate quality and sell them on for ridiculous profit. You can't not be a massive fan of the work that Brighton do. It's just ridiculous.
And they don't seem to drop. Everybody thinks they sell and then they're going to drop, and they just continue to be in that sort of around the top 8 position.
Yeah.
Very good club. Very good.
That's what gets them into the top 4 for me as well, because we've got to, like I say, keep going back to it. We've seen 4 games this season already, and they've started the season well again. It doesn't seem that whenever they lose, whether it's a manager they lose, whether it's players they lose, they've got this system that just carries on regardless of what the changes are around it. And I think, again, obviously they've made a massive profit in the transfer window again, they've still got Mitoma. He's probably going to be the next big one out the door. But then you got Enciso, who he's been held back a little bit. Yeah, he's got a bit of an injury, but I think he won't be played. He'll be played sparingly throughout the season. But we've got so many more players, and of course, the striker on the weekend getting a hat trick, 18 years old. You know, where do they find these players? First off, but they keep finding them. It's a model that I've said both me and Dino have kind of harped on about, and I'm sure it annoys Wolverine as well, but you've got to look at the Brighton model. How the hell do Brighton attract Ansu Fati from Barcelona? Because of the way they play, the way they're set up. There's something going right there, and I think it would a lot of part
as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Who'd heard of De Zerbi? Had any of you guys heard of him? Because I certainly hadn't, and he's probably one of the top 5 managers now.
Yeah, I had heard of him. He's doing really well at Shakhtar. He did a really good job at Sassuolo as well.
Yeah. That's the one. Yeah. Absolutely.
So these are making it, aren't the guys?
I think so, yeah. I mean, as I said, you've got to judge it on ins and outs. The outs are great in terms of the money they've got in. I like the ins. Again, some of them you're not going to know how good they're going to be for a few years, but adding a bit of experience, and James Milner can't be a bad thing. Mo Dahoud from Dortmund experience.
Yeah, Dahoud's class.
Yeah, so, you know, I think, and then you've got Baleba, Verbruggen, João Pedro, Fati, all young and exciting talents, that are the sort of players that will do very well at Brighton. So, yeah, I think this is a good window. So I would probably have them sneaking in, yeah.
Okay, well, that's them in. So we've got 3 spaces gone, 1 to go. Obviously, we might need to jiggle around a bit. So we've got Barchester United now. This was an interesting one. Mason Mount, wow, 60 mil. Charlie?
Go on, Charlie.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'll be honest. At the time, I was disappointed that he left the club. But having had a little bit of time to sort of reflect on it, I actually think, you know, he's not been good for whatever reason, injuries, confidence, personal life, whatever it might be. He's not really been good for 18 months, 2 years now. So to get 60 million quid for a player that has been on a decline, he's only 24 years of age, can still go and have a very good career, absolutely. But he looks like someone that's so short of confidence right now. And I don't know if that's the right balance and the right fit for what Man United need in their midfield. I would have thought they needed someone to rotate with Casemiro or play alongside him in the big away games. They got that in Sofia and Amrabat. I'm just not really sure where Mount kind of fits into that midfield.
Do you rate him? I think he's a bit lazy, Charlie.
Do you know what? I like him. I think he's a good footballer. You only have to look at what he did, in terms of how he helped. He was back-to-back Chelsea Player of the Year. He obviously helped massive part in us winning the Champions League. But for whatever reason, confidence seems to have dipped, picking up a few injuries. Form has deserted him. It looks like a good deal for Chelsea so far. I'm not saying that Mount can't make a success of it, but Ten Hag's got a difficult job on his hands to get that midfield balance. Because I'll be honest, the midfield balance with Bruno, Mount, and Casemiro has looked horrendous in the opening games that it was done in. So yeah, Ten Hag's got a difficult task on his hands there, because Mount was his guy. He wanted Mount. That was his number one target. So he has to make this work. And on the early evidence, I'm not sure it is going to work.
Has any picks there?
I'd agree with a lot of what Charlie said there, and it's probably why I wouldn't put them in my top 4. I just don't think they've signed well. I think they've overpaid for Mason Mount, and if he is one of Ten Hag's key signings, then he hasn't made it work. But a player that we got in very late in the window, I think, could help that midfield get sorted, and that's at Sofia and Amrabat. That kind of gives them a little bit few more points on the transfer window for me. I think he's a top player. He's one of the best CDMs in Europe. I think he's a proper general, isn't he? He's an organizer, and if they let him play the way he wants to play and organize that midfield, then they could be onto a winner with him. I still think they're defensively poor. I don't think they've got enough backup. We saw that on the weekend. They get 2 injuries. Get an injury and a yellow card, which he took. I think he took thingy off of that, didn't he? But then who do you bring on? You bring on Johnny Evans and Brickhead. So I think
that
defensively,
was so nice to see, wasn't it? It was like going back into the retro games on the TV.
It was funny to see, because I think he almost kind of tried to. I think got lost in translation, but he was asked in the post-match press conference. You conceded 2 goals after Johnny Evans and Maguire came on. Are they the reason? And I think it was lost in translation. He says, "Yeah, obviously," but I don't think he was blaming them actually. I just think he got lost in translation, as in, yeah, obviously they came on and we conceded 2 goals. But yeah, I think they're defensively poor. I think they've been really, really poor in their midfield. I think they were lucky. They got a penalty that shouldn't have been a penalty against us. I won't keep harping on about it, but they were lucky to win that game. I don't think they've had a good start to the season. They shouldn't have got a point. They should have only got a point out of the Wolves game after that late punch to the face from Onana. He's a bit of a liability. He's going to get out of my FPL team pretty soon. I don't think we've seen anything. Well, we haven't seen enough from Højlund to be able to judge that player. He could potentially be one that might get them a bit of a B minus or B plus out of this, but at the moment they're not in my top 4.
The outgoings are poor as well. The amount of players that needed to leave that club to the amount that did leave is terrible. Maguire should have gone. They should have got rid of Scott McTominay as well. There's a number of players that should have been moved on that simply weren't moved on. So I can't look at that window. Yes, they got the players that Ten Hag wanted, but that for me, I think they needed a bit more in there. I think they could have done with another centre forward. Højlund, I think, could be a good player, but he'd be, in my opinion, one of those players that you have as a backup striker to bed him in for a season or 2, whilst you learn from for example, if they'd been able to, I know it would have cost a load of money, but just an example, Kane with Højlund as a backup / rotation option, that would have worked a lot better for him. There's a lot of pressure on the young kid. And as I said, with the outgoings, I just can't put that in the top 4. I just think it's a poor window.
Yeah, I mean, this Onana's a bit of a love-hate character, isn't he? I mean, I'm a bit old school. I like goalkeepers to save shots and come for crosses. I'm not into fucking goalkeepers running out to the halfway line taking 4 players on.
Nice. So it's the modern game.
I don't think he's as good a signing as a lot of Man United fans think. Do you agree with that? Or
No, I think he's good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's going to be decent. I mean, his save percentages look halfway good for the time that Ajax and Inter, and obviously they got to the Champions League final last season. But I mean, Onana was pegged as kind of like that missing piece because Man United apparently sort of like fit together pretty well under Ten Hag last season, but De Gea couldn't work the ball well enough. So now you need Onana, and then you can build everything up from the back, and it all works. And clearly hasn't so far this season based on their performances. So, and you know, I think he isn't as good a goalkeeper just in terms of shot stopper as De Gea overall. De Gea made some massive blunders last season, but he still got the Golden Glove. So, you know, you look at losing that. And yeah, Johnny Evans is not exactly someone you want to be bringing in really as a Man United side. And Højlund's the interesting one. Højlund's the one that ticks every single box if you're looking at a list of most likely to flop. Now, obviously, he could be fine, and he's probably going to be their best option. But he has not spent more than 18 months with any of the clubs that he's been at once he turned professional. He hasn't exactly set the world on fire in terms of his goal scoring numbers. He was 1-2 at Sturm Graz and he was 1-3 at Atalanta, which is not fantastic numbers. He's still incredibly young. He came in injured and missed preseason. Like tick, 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 tick in terms of, is this guy going to flop? Now, obviously he could be great. And I think his 10 minutes against Arsenal showed that he definitely has something about him. But it's a hell of a lot of money to spend on a striker that has nothing proven about him.
I saw a similar debut like that from Mudryk, and I haven't seen anything since. So hopefully it's not just a flash in the pan from their point of view. But he's the only one that could kind of lift them out of this where I place him. But they're not in my top 4, guys. So I don't know about you two, but yeah.
Not yours either.
No.
Amrabat only just
don't
about
make
took them
it.
into my
We'll
top
move
10.
on.
Amrabat, yeah.
Interesting. Newcastle. I think they bought really well, actually. Not a lot, but did they need to add a lot?
Not enough.
But look at that out in Chris Wood and St. Maximan. Now, I know St. Maximan's got a lot of love from a lot of Newcastle fans because it's exciting to watch until the end. Yeah, it's like it's like a fucking really bad movie, isn't it? Really bad movie at the end. So who's your sort of pick of the ins and outs there? You'll start with you, Ez.
Sandro Tonali for me is another one of the best signings of this transfer window. He's in my top 4 or 5, I think, for the signings of a window. If he's played well, I think him and Guimaraes could make an amazing partnership. My worry is just what Charlie said there, so I'm going to kind of nick it a little bit. I don't think they've signed enough. Not with a Champions League ahead of them. I don't think they've done enough, and that's for me why they don't make it into my. Although the signings they have made are quality, Harvey Barnes is another one, but I don't want to take too much time from the other guys. But for me, guys, they don't make my top 4 because, like Charlie said, I don't think we've signed enough. I think we needed more backup. Charlie,
yeah, absolutely. And
like Joelinton's put something here. We didn't fill the positions we needed.
It's like I do look and sort of like say Livermento's great, but you've already got Trippier. There's a lot of money to spend on a reserve right back. Lewis Hall isn't the quality that you need to be bringing in at left back because Dan Burn, I think, is definitely not good enough anymore for where Newcastle are looking to be based on the few performances I've seen from him so far. Harvey Barnes is great, but I think Gordon has really started to show his quality. So Barnes is spending a lot of time on the bench. There's a lot of money to be spending there when really you should have been bringing in a right winger. You didn't need to bring in a left winger because you could have kept St. Maximan. Admittedly, he doesn't fit what Eddie Howe has always wanted from his wingers in terms of St. Maximan, which is defensive work rate. But, you know, you could have kept St. Maximan. And then Tonali, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced by that signing at all. He could be great, but he's also the big thing is, and there was a really good video that I watched recently from Lies Buzzardi. I can't remember his surname, but basically Italians just flop in the Premier League. They're just like, there hasn't been any decent Italian signings since like Chelsea 2 decades ago. Yeah, we're talking Ravanelli and Zola. Since then, Italians just don't fit in the Premier League, and I don't know what it is. Tonali's the one that's most likely to break that because he fits the hard-hitting midfielder mold that you kind of think is going to work in the. But like, he was great in the first game. and I'm fairly certain he's been abject in the next 3, or at least close to. I think it was decent against Liverpool, and then obviously things went downhill pretty quickly when he was taken off with the other 2 signings.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's been like worth 55 million, and I don't see how he's going to really get close to that. The main point, obviously, as was pointed out before, is that they just needed more. They just needed more players. They needed more bodies in the door. It's pretty simple. You're going to be playing in the Champions League. Yes, you need quality, but you need to be able to handle the number of games, and you need the depth for that. And they don't have it, which is why I think they're going to struggle in terms of league play as well.
Well, even their centre back situation, the fact they're having to keep Jamal Lascelles, if so, like he's been a good servant to Newcastle, but right now for where you're competing, that's not doing the business. Like it's not. You need more than that. I mean, look, Livramento and Lewis Hall. I mean, 2 former Chelsea fullbacks. Look, you're buying potential there. You're taking a gamble. Are those guys ready to come in right now and make a difference to your team in the league or in the Champions League? No, probably not. Will they be good signings? Yeah, I'm sure they will be. But they're not going to be good signings sort of right now. I think Harvey Barnes is. If you could like pick an Eddie Howe signing, Harvey Barnes pretty much sums up an Eddie Howe transfer. Like, it's the most obvious Eddie Howe signing out there, pretty much. I think he'll be a good player, but again, for me, he's not started the first few games. Fine, you're not always going to go straight in and start, but is that the quality of signing you need? Is that going to take you to the next level in the Champions League? I'm not too sure. I like Barnes. I think he's got a decent. He's a decent player, but I just worry for Newcastle. Have they added enough quality to help them compete in the Champions League? And I'm not sure if they have.
So just to add to what you've just said there, I worry for Eddie Howe. I think he's under more pressure this season than he's ever been since he's been there. I think the patience is going to run a bit thin. I wouldn't be surprised if come January that if a league position's not good and they've not made a good start in the Champions League, that he's under a little bit more pressure than he's found so far, because the money is obviously there, but has he got the right players that he wanted, or has he even wanted certain players? Because I agree with everything that you guys have said. They've not signed enough. That's going to be their major downfall, and I think it's going to be a real struggle for them. I think they got into the top 4 partly because teams like Chelsea and Liverpool had such bad seasons last year. I think it kind of overshadows their achievement, to be honest, a little bit. I don't think they'll be that lucky this year, and they could really struggle to. He could struggle to keep on hold of his job by the end of the season. I personally think. I don't know if he can
only be a victim of his own success, Eddie. Because let's face it, if they had finished 7th or 8th last season, they would have made pretty similar signings, and then they'd be going, "We're now going to push on to 4th. We're going to push on to try and get 4th." But then they would have probably got 5th or 6th and gone, "Okay, that's good because it's constant improvement."
They're ahead of schedule.
He has taken them way ahead of schedule. And that is the only thing that's going to bite him in the backside, is that people are going to start going, "Well, you were 4th last season." It's like, that's not the point. You've got to take the whole picture into account. And so far, the ownership, as much as there are obviously many controversies on him, the ownership have been sensible so far. This is where you will start to see, like, especially as like there are issues at the moment with regards to ticketing, and there are some murmurs about the Newcastle fan base being less happy with the owners, and it's like this is the year then you'll start to see, like, are they going to become the cutthroat people that we expected them to be, or are they going to maintain this sensible approach and say that no, Eddie is still building something here because we are just ahead of schedule and we need to work along that path? Or are they going to say, well, he took us this far, well, unfortunately, we need someone else to do a better job, and they'll find someone that then they'll have 5 managers in the next 4 years, sort of thing. So we'll have to see what happens.
So is this a no then? I'm hearing from Nick. I'm surprised at that. Actually, I thought they'd make it. I know
it's a no for me. Yeah, no for me.
Just take a break to thank Stoney. Thank you for the 79, my friend. Appreciated. Eddie, thank you. Me, knobhead Wolverine. I don't know what that means, but thanks for 199. And Joe Linton.
We agree.
We needed, thank you very much, Joe Linton. That's really, really nice of you to do that. We needed centre back, right wing, number 6, and starting left back in all the positions we need to strengthen. And we didn't. And it's Dan Ashford's fault. Also, PIF won't put up with this crap. PIF.
Yeah.
Owners.
So, not in our top 4. I think overall.
Okay. Thank you guys for that. I really appreciate that.
Really appreciate that, guys.
We're getting down to the last few now. We've still got one
Yeah.
space to fill. This is Spurs. Fantastic start for Spurs. What a different type of football. And I think probably we need to start off with Harry Kane, don't we? I think most fans were shitting themselves at Spurs when Harry Kane left, wondering how they sort of fill that. But maybe it's a good thing. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think. Well, I think they did the exact right thing. I think it was when Bayern Munich was offering 80 million. I thought, why are they not taking this? And then when they managed to get 100, I was like, okay, fair play. I think it's the best case scenario that Daniel Levy could have had in selling him for that much money to a non-rival. Because he was never going to sell him to another Premier League team, and that's worked out perfectly for them. So it's fantastic on that regard. And then Harry Winks, Lucas Moura, Jed Spence. It's all much of a muchness. I think Jed Spence could have had a good opportunity there, but obviously, I think we've heard about his personality issues that have prevented him from getting more opportunities at plenty of his clubs. I think the reason I rate Spurs window quite so highly is just when I look at when they've brought in players, they have upgraded. And that's the big thing for me that makes me go, this has been a really good window for Spurs. When you look at Dejan Kulusevski, okay, he was there already, and Pedro Porro were there already. That's a bit of a shame that you got to spend 55 million over half of Harry Kane's fee just bringing in players that you already had at the club. So that's a shame. But James Maddison, one of the signings of the window, comfortably, absolutely incredible player.
100%.
Vicario really has impressed me. And he's a clear upgrade on Lloris for a really nice fee as well. 17 million. When you think Onana was, 50 odd? 50, was it 55 or 45?
Yeah,
whatever it was.
Yeah.
For them to get Vicario from Empoli for 17 million has been fantastic. Mickey van der Ven, really good, and to have a left-footed centre-back playing on the left side, another really good upgrade. The only one that sort of made me go, what? Was Brennan Johnson. And I know, I know I'm on a Forest fans channel, but like, he's not done enough to earn himself that move. He just hasn't. Like, Forest did enough to stay up last season, but Forest, like Bournemouth, were two of the worst teams in the division last year and stayed up through luck more than anything else. That there were three teams that were worse than them, and Brennan Johnson did okay, but he didn't produce massive figures in terms of his passing stats, his take-on stats, his scoring stats. And he's going from a team that played nothing but counter-attack last season to a team that is going to want to dominate the ball against every team they play. Like, is there really any proof that Johnson is going to be able to go from making good runs to one or two key passes a game that the team relies on to suddenly having to cut through defenses with key balls through the back line, being able to take on his man regularly with teams sitting in? It just really confuses me. 47.5 million is a lot of money for Brennan Johnson, and it's not in the position they needed. They needed a striker replacement. That's not what Brennan Johnson
I could understand it more if it had gone to United because they play more counter-attacking, but I totally agree with you. He's got some skills, but the main attribute he's got, I suppose, is his pace, his lightning pace. He's now officially the fastest in the league, apparently.
But I think this window for Spurs is really, really underwhelming and quite disappointing. James Maddison, fantastic signing. Obviously, they've made Kulusevski and Porro permanent. They're already there. Fine. Van der Ven's a good signing. Brennan Johnson, we don't really know. It wasn't necessarily what they... I don't think it's what they needed. As John said, they needed goals. Richarlison has proven that he's not going to be a regular source of goals. They're really relying on Son to score the bulk of their goals. Can he do that? No one really knows. They needed more centre backs. They're one injury away to Van der Ven or Romero for having to play Eric Dyer. Like that's disaster for them. They've done a bit and they've done some reasonable business. The keeper looks decent and Maddison's good, but the rest of the business is, like, for me, outgoings are nowhere near good enough. Yeah, obviously Harry Kane's gone fine. But the other ones, didn't get rid of enough players. Too much dead wood there. Dyer should have gone. Ben Davies should have been cleared out. Reguilon, they literally only got rid of him because Luke Shaw got injured. Otherwise, he would have been staying there. Yes, obviously they got rid of Sanchez and Ndombele went, whatever, fine. But for me, Spurs, not enough dead wood gotten rid of, and they didn't address enough areas. They need more centre-back depth, and they needed a goal scorer, and they didn't get either of those things. So I can't rate this as a decent window.
You can't mention Deadwood around here either. It's a bit spiky with the Forest fans.
Oh.
Ez, are you going to save Spurs? Because it sounds like these two have buried them.
I think they have buried them, and they've almost persuaded me. But I had them in my top 4. I've got to be honest.
Yeah,
I think
Pedro Porro,
I'm going on the site test.
player.
I'm going on the site test on how they've started this season and how these players. Udogi's another one playing at left back who's had a really good start. Udogi, who's had a really good start to the season. So I think with the manager they've got in place now, he can make these players work. I think there's a lot still to come from Brennan Johnson. I think a lot of haters like Sai in the chat will be surprised by what he manages this season. I think if he's played right, I think he's an upgrade on Kulusevski, to be honest. Even though they made that a permanent deal, I think he's a better player. But we'll see how that works out. Yeah, but I have them in my top 4. I think they've done some good business, and I still agree that they probably could have done with getting a bit more, few more players. I won't use that phrase. But the Harry Kane, we'll see what life after Harry Kane's like. But so far, it's been not a bad start from their point of view, and they haven't seemed to miss him. Son needs to take up that mantle. I don't know why he wasn't being played through the middle straight away, and they were trying to persist with Richarlison. I think we just have to knock Richarlison deal on the head and say, it hasn't worked out. And
he's
Son. He's not good enough. He's not got enough for me. Not to be playing as a number 9 anyway, which is where he started the season. Play Son in that number 9. I think they'll have a decent season, and I think that for me will get them into my top 4 because I think they'll actually do well with the signings that we've.
By the way, can I just say, like I dogged on the just signing of Brennan Johnson there, but I was very positive about the rest of it, and I do actually have Tottenham in my top 4. I'm just confused by the Brennan Johnson signing. But I just the other thing that does well, and Easy mentioned it, that because of their start, I am also slightly weighing towards them, and I think part of the reason that is just because they got in a really good manager. Like Ange was, I think Ange has been lambasted just because he's come through from lower leagues, from Australia through to Japan, through to Scotland, and now into the Premier League. But Spurs have been putting up with managers that don't want to be there for the last few years. They've now got someone that is committed and positive and aggressive and attacking, and Spurs look really good. And at the moment, I have them in my top 4.
There might be top 4. Not only in the transfer window, but in the league. I just want to thank Joel Linton, man. You're so kind, man. Thank you very much. Our chairman, Yazir, got asked if he did expect top 4, and he said yes. That's the trouble.
It's top 5 now, isn't it?
Yeah. Top 5.
That's the trouble when the money's spreading around.
What are we saying? Because 2 of us are saying top 4. Charlie said you've got the casting vote, mate. I think. Charlie said no.
It's the 3 of you, isn't it? 2 of you said, one of you said no.
I've been outvoted. Fine.
You wouldn't have had them in the top, no?
No. Not done enough.
Okay.
Nothing to do with the rivals, is it?
Oh, no. I like some of the signings they've done, but for me, just not done enough ins or outs in key areas.
How many teams we got left? 3 more.
Yeah, just quickly pump your channels. Ez, do you want to tell everybody about FFTV Premier League and what the plans are for the next few months?
Yeah, well, I can't go few months, but I'll go for the next week or so. But
what's the business plan?
We've been doing something similar. I've seen Charlie doing as well. We do a weekend review after the obviously the weekend's game. So me and Ant do that once a week. So Monday or Tuesday, depending on whether there's a Monday night game. And then I'm really big into my FPL at the moment, and hoping to do a few more short streams over the next few days while the international windows go in, international breaks on. Sorry. So any guys who haven't already joined the FPL stream, I try and stick the link in the stream. But yeah, a couple of good shows coming up. I'm hoping to get, if you guys are and anyone in the chat's interested, please get involved with the FPL show as well. I'm always looking to keep that fresh and having new guests on that one. But yeah. Hopefully a few more shows coming out, and guys, I pass you on to Charlie to let us know what's coming up on Blues Brothers and your CFC show as well.
Yeah. So at the moment, got quite a lot going on. Obviously, international break content's not. It's a little bit harder to come up with ideas, but there's loads going on: match previews, reviews, vlogs, collaborations. Opposition previews, all sorts of stuff going on over there. So You can catch me live most days, or there'll be some form of content, whether it's live or a video up every day. And yeah, you can catch me over on Chelsea Fan TV as well. But yeah, Blue Brothers, my main one, coming up to 7K now. So yeah, going along reasonably nicely.
You were really hot, bro. I could see that. John, do you want to plug your channel?
Yeah, so Cherries Red Army at the moment, we've scaled back a little bit on last year, but we're still doing a show every week while the Premier League is on. We won't be doing a weekend show this week because obviously international break. But yeah, Monday or Tuesday we'll always have a sort of week in review show. I'm doing watch-alongs quite a bit more regularly this season. So I've done watch-alongs for 3 out of the 4 Premier League games so far. I was at the other one, so couldn't do a watch-along for that one. But and then I'll pop up with the occasional video now and again that sort of looks a bit more at stats and tactics, which is just a personal project that I occasionally put out. And I should have, hopefully, one of those out sometime in the next week to look at Bournemouth's first few games overall.
Nice, thank you. Right, guys, get over and after the stream and please subscribe to the channels. Like I said before, it's important that the whole football community on YouTube is growing and becoming a voice. So it's important that we all support each other. Right, bloody hell, Charlie. Look at this.
Yeah, mate. There's
they're not all even on there. Look at the bottom. No, I mean, it's ridiculous. You guys have spent $1 billion in 3 years worth of transfer winners.
No, not even 3 years. No, just since Bowley's been in, they spent $1 billion.
Yeah.
Well, the bit what I would say is a little bit nitpicking, but the $1 billion is presuming that all add-ons are hit on all deals, which might not. Just wanted to.
I'm the host. You're the guest. It's poetic license. It's $1 billion. It's $1 billion.
Yeah, no, we spent a lot of money. Yeah, no two ways about it. In terms of this summer, I think in terms of outgoings, phenomenal. Like to get rid of the volume of players that we have, to get the price that we've got for certain players. You know, the squad was way too big. There were way too many players that didn't want to be at the club, and we needed a massive clear out. And I think, as the graphic shows, you know, we could have done. Maybe Brighton will be part of the multi-club model, the next one we get. Who knows? But yeah, like, in terms of the players out the door, needed to be done. So yeah, I'm delighted with that. No, for me, there's none that I look at on that list and I think, oh, gutted they've gone. At the time, Mount, I was disappointed, but now that time's gone, as I said earlier, I think that's a good deal. I don't think we're going to regret that one. So I look at all those names that have gone. I haven't got any issue with any of them leaving. So yeah, from that perspective, good. The incomings is an interesting one. I think obviously Nkunku deal was agreed back in November, so he arrived this summer. Great signing. Caicedo, Lavia, again, a couple of standout ones there. I think Cole Palmer will be good as well. And there's a lot of young up and coming players as well. I don't think we'll really know how good this window is for like a couple of years, maybe. Like, to see
are any of these players gonna? You know, there's some of these in here that may not even pull on a shirt. First team shirt.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Kendry Páez, the Ecuadorian lad, he's 16. He can't come until 2025 until he's 18. So, look, I like the business that's been done, but I do fully appreciate the idea that this is a risk. You're taking a gamble on the fact that you think these guys are going to fulfill the potential that they've got, and there's no guarantees they're going to do that. And when you sign a load of young players all at once, there's going to be a lot of inconsistencies because that's what you get from young players.
I think we've been too nice. I think we've been too nice. I think we're being too nice and chat. Come on, explain this, mate. They have spent nearly over $1 billion.
I think it's a good window.
Right. Okay. So you telling me it wouldn't have been better spent for you to buy 2 or 3 top like an Osimhen, spend 150 million on an Osimhen, or even Harry Kane?
Never worked for us in the past, though. Like Harry Kane was never going to come to us. Like, I mean, Chelsea would have loved Kane.
If you'd paid Levia, if you'd made him an offer he couldn't refuse, 150 million, I think he would have taken it. I think
Kane, I don't think Kane would have joined Chelsea, though. That's the thing. I don't even think he would have. He would have been bothered. Look, I think you could say, look, what's missing from Chelsea? Goals. Like, we wanted to sign a number 9, but in terms of the market for 9s this summer, and we've been down like a number of years, can reel off so many strikers we've signed that were big names and big reputations and were a total disaster. Lukaku, Shevchenko, like Morata, Higuain, like just to name a few. Like, going for the tried and tested and spending big money on individual players hasn't really served us that well in the past. We needed a complete squad rebuild. We have completely revamped the squad in just over a year, and it is a massive gamble. Yes, there's exciting signings there, and yes, there are players that you hope will do well.
But is there a team there? There's exciting signings.
There's 5 teams in there. 5.
not right now. There's not, in terms of, you know, like at the moment these are a bunch of individuals that don't really know each other particularly well, and it's going to take time to bed in. Like, I think obviously we would have liked to have had better results so far, for sure, and we should have had a few better results, absolutely. But you know, I think it's hard to get a team clicking straight away when you just plunge 15 or 20 new players into the squad. Like, that's not going to suddenly just be amazing. So I think it's a good window personally. Would I have liked a number 9 and a bit more of a goal scorer? Yes, but am I pleased we didn't sign one instead of just signing one for the sake of it? Yeah, I am, and we just got to trust what we've got. But I just
trust the process. Mate, I've got to argue with you. It's a great comment. Why didn't you just buy Haaland and Mbappe?
Because it's not as simple as that. Like,
it's like a conveyor belt.
No, but it's not as simple as that. Like, if it was that easy, then you just put the money on the table and they'd come. Like, Haaland is never going to join Chelsea, and neither's Mbappe. Everyone knows Mbappe is going to Real Madrid next. Like, that's why no one's bothering to try, apart from the Saudis. Everyone knows that Mbappe is going to play for Real Madrid as his next club. So there's no point even trying for these names. Yeah, of course, you know, we could have dropped big money potentially on a forward, but big money forwards haven't worked out at Chelsea. We've had 2 successful centre forwards in 20 years in Drogba and Costa. The amount of money we spent on forwards, like with profile, big name, great goal scoring records, and they've all been shit. Like that's the reality for us right now.
John, jump in, man. John, because I hope you agree with me. I think they've had they're not in my top 4 anyway. I'm just saying that right now. Chelsea don't make my top 4 for transfer. John, what do you think?
I don't have the energy to talk about all of these Chelsea signings.
Overall, because we've been going an hour and a half now, so we need to.
Yeah, we've got more teams
to
talk about.
These Chelsea boys in the relegation zone.
Yeah, I've got nothing major to add. It's just like it doesn't make any sense to me financially in terms of, like, I understand the plan, but you're just signing too many players to make it work. I just, as far as I'm concerned, I understand you amortize, you bring in a bunch of young players, you give them game time, they improve, you can sell them for more, and it looks great in the books because you've sold them on and whatnot. But you've sold on all your own youth products to make up for the fact that you're spending on all these. It's just, I do feel like if it works by some miracle, it will work brilliantly. But obviously, last year shows that it's not that easy. And if it doesn't work, it will so massively hamper Chelsea financially. I don't have any run-in with Chelsea. If they fall down massively, it's no skin off my back. But I don't like it for the fans. They can enjoy it all now. But I just don't see, like, it's all great fun, and you see people speaking on YouTube, all these accounts, and they go like, this is great, and then one loss to Forest and everything's in panic stations. So it's just like, I don't think this is good for Chelsea. I just do not see how this is a good thing for the future of Chelsea, personally.
I think
this is really in any way.
I think this comment's kicking the can down the road for you guys, these 8-year contracts.
And that's the point. That's the risk they're taking. And if it works, and they actually give some game time to some of these youngsters and they develop, and you sell on. Well, this is the point, that you're meant to bring in the youngsters and sell them on for more, but you're bringing in Cole Palmer for 42.5. Is anyone going to pay 60 million for him in 2 years? You hope so, but you'd think he's still playing for the next 4 years.
Just
anyway,
wipe your tears, my friend.
So much
tears.
Charlie, are they in your top 4? Charlie, do they get in your top 4 of the transfer window?
For me, yes, because I think the outgoings have been phenomenal. Look, not all the incomings are amazing. Like players like Washington, never heard of him before. Pires hasn't even arrived at the club yet. Ugachuk, who's one for the future. But you know, if you're weighing up a overall window, like just a pure amount of money that's come in for the club and the amount of players you've got rid of, and some good signings in there, in Caicedo, in Nkunku, in Lavia as well. Cole Palmer, I think, is a decent signing. For me, I think they just. I think they sneak in for me. Like, but again, like I'm happy to be. If I'm outvoted, I'm outvoted. But I think it's hard for me not to include them, given the sheer amount of business done and how good the outgoings have been.
You look so friendly. It's so funny. As you're saying a no.
I'm saying a no for even on the eye test, mate. They haven't started well enough for me. It was the end of the world after they lost to us on a weekend, and the amount of chances they had. And Nkunku, in fact, in that pre-season tournament out over in America, they looked amazing. I had them shortlisted for my top 4 after watching that. He hasn't played the way. Poch hasn't played that same way since they've been back in the Premier League. And Nkunku getting injured is a major problem. I don't understand why they didn't go out and try and replace him, even if it's trying to find a loan.
Get another one in.
Well, you know, he's a key striker, because if you're looking at Miss Jackson as your replacement, I think you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, but Nkunku's not a number 9, so he was not.
No, Nkunku was playing. Nkunku played played most of his minutes in pre-season at left wing.
Yeah, exactly. He plays off the left, or he plays.
There's nothing you can do anyway. Save Chelsea.
I've got 2 teams to talk about. So
moving on.
Yeah, not for me, then. John's got a casting vote.
Bournemouth.
Oof.
Now these have had a sneaky, potentially good window, a sneaky one. John, where on earth did you get all the money from? Somebody passed away and left you a load of money.
Mate, it's Hollywood money.
Recent takeover. Yeah, recent takeover. It's
more.
pretty simple in that one. You know, it's not exactly Saudi money or Bowley money, but it's it's certainly something that we can handle. I mean, because I could say the same about how you got all your money from last season and this season combined as well. So it's coming from similar positions.
It's not me, I'm the host.
Gives you that money. Yeah, I'm looking at.
Really, your net spent over 100 million, man. That's must be the most you've spent in probably forever, is it?
In one window, definitely.
One window,
but
yeah.
It's also we're very confident this is the best window we've ever had in our history, because I think when you look at the quality that we brought in, it's what I would say is that I can be very biased on this, so I'm going to try and sort of dash that back a little bit. Is that you look at the main areas that we needed to improve on this season was a ball-winning defensive midfield to replace Lerma, and we've upgraded on that in Tyler Adams. Lerma's great, but as a ball winner, he doesn't match up to Adams at all. We needed a right back, and we've got Aarons, who is an upgrade on what we currently had, and we needed a left back, and we got Milos Kerkez, who we beat Lazio to sign, and is a really is a fantastic player to bring in. Then you look beyond that, Alex Scott is one of the talents in England at the moment. Bringing him in for 25 million is a fantastic signing. Romain Favre, if he'd stayed, but he's gone out on loan to Lorient. If he'd stayed, he'd be an upgrade on Ryan Christie. And then Cliver is a potential. Traore is potential. Radu's alone is someone to go in second choice goalkeeper. And then Sinistera is arguably an upgrade on our wingers. When you look at who we've brought in and the money we've spent on them, like it's not blowing the bank. It's not blowing the bank on any one signing. Obviously, Alex Scott is quite expensive, so is Tyler Adams. And the problem is the reason that some people will bring us further down the ladder on that is that Scott and Tyler Adams are still both injured. And I think that's the biggest reason for you to say it's not been great, it's not been as good as it could have been. But in terms of like what areas could we improve? What areas did we need to improve? How much are we spending on them? It's just been such nothing but quality coming in through the door to genuinely provide really good challenges to improve our position to further and further up the table, including bringing in a new manager who will work well with these players. I mean, I am obviously somewhat biased, and I have a feeling after Charlie put Chelsea in his top 4, I have a feeling Nottingham Forest is going to be voted in the top 4 as well. I just about put Bournemouth in my top 4.
Well, it'll be up to me.
I can be talked out of it. I have just barely put Bournemouth in my top 4.
Okay,
because I just think that in each position we brought it in, there is real quality above what we already have, and if it's a squad player, it's very good competition. I just think it's been a really good window.
Well, I'm probably going to surprise. Well, I think I'm going to surprise the chat, and I'm going to surprise the guys here as well. Because out of our 3 teams, I only put one of us in the top 4, and it wasn't Forest, and it wasn't Chelsea. I put Bournemouth in there.
Wow!
I think
about you, Charlie? Did you Same.
I think we've had a good window.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I haven't really heard of half these players before.
I'm not surprised.
Obviously, Alex Scott, quite a few clubs were sniffing around him. Obviously, as John said, he's been injured. We haven't really seen him yet, but looks a real talent from Bristol City. So he's definitely, I imagine he's definitely an upgrade on what Bournemouth had around there before. Max Aarons is one of those that was constantly linked with big moves to the Premier League for a number of years, and he kind of stagnated a bit at Norwich. I think to get him for £7 million, I think that's relatively risk-free signing. You know, if it works out, you've got a half decent player. If it doesn't, you've only lost £7 million, which in this market isn't much. I like Tyler Adams, definitely an upgrade in the midfield there. Good use of the relegation release. Of course, Sinisterra is an exciting winger. Enjoyed what I saw of him at Leeds last season. Don't know much about the Alkmaar lad or the lad from Sassuolo. And then obviously Justin Kluivert, someone that's had a lot of moves, someone that's had a lot of potential, but not really realised it yet. So again, maybe that's a little bit of a gamble there as well. But for less than £10 million, I don't think you can go too wrong with trying that. So I suppose from what Bournemouth needed and what they got, I guess you could say it's a good window. But I just don't know enough about those players. So let
me just qualify why I think. Go on.
Sorry, we need to move on. Is that a yes? Because we've got Man City, West Ham, Brighton, and Spurs in the top four. So who, if you're saying Bournemouth are in, who they're knocking out?
Oh, for me, I'd be knocking Spurs out for Bournemouth.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
John?
Me, I had it between Bournemouth and City in my top four, and I just edged Bournemouth into the top four. So it'd be City coming out for me.
Oh, God. Ez?
Well, my top four is Spurs, West Ham, Brighton, and Bournemouth.
That's
my top four. So they're in for me.
So is that Man City going out then? Because that's 2 for Man City.
Yeah, I didn't have Man City in.
Okay. Bournemouth make it in.
Maybe you need to make the vote a top 5 then.
I can only do 4 on the poll.
You can do 4 on the poll. That's the downside.
Right, you know, I'm obviously the host, so therefore I've got no, I'm not bobothered who I support.
No, nothing at all.
We've got one left.
Well, I think we can run through the next few, and I'll start with our boys.
Hold on, Ez. I was laughing at Chelsea, but I had to make the font so small for this.
I wondered why you were off the screen for a bit. Fuck's sake. You're supposed to be unbiased.
I am unbiased.
Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Right. So let me just say a few things about our transfer window that I haven't already said. I think we've had a really good... most of those 14 signings that you're seeing, half of those were made on transfer deadline day. Yeah. That's what puts the score down for me, because we should have done our business a lot sooner.
Poor planning.
As exciting as it was, it's panicky as well, because our marquee signing Sangare, which if you guys don't know, we had a small part to play in his him getting across the dotted line. That was made very late in the window. Most of these deals were made late in the window. That's what puts the score down for me. And I don't think we got enough of our, and I can use this term now because it includes them. We didn't get enough of our deadwood out. So for those 2 reasons, the lateness of most of us, half of our signings, and the amount we didn't get out, Forest don't make it into my top 4, guys. So I'll pass on to John. Go on, John.
Yeah, what I was actually quite surprised about is that I was expecting to look at looking at Transfermarkt, and I looked at Chelsea's size of the squad, and they've got 29 players listed, and they've got enough youngsters, which means they can register them all. Forest have got 35. 5 of whom are young enough to be under 21 and therefore don't count. So it means obviously there's a few people that people have already mentioned, like Harry Arter, probably Shelby, that aren't going to get picked anyway. But it means you're definitely missing out on players that you're still paying money to that aren't going to be part of your squad. 100%. So you've not sold enough players. And while I think there are quite a few in there that I like, it's not too dissimilar to Villa in terms of like Sangare as the bang, like, wow, that is one hell of a player. But but the rest are sort of like, yeah. I think, because you've got Omar Bamidele will be good. So could Murillo. But they're both 21 they're both centre backs at 21. And you've already got 5 or 6 on the books anyway. Are they necessarily going to get that game time?
John,
sorry,
honestly, you're like an encyclopedia, man. You're a Wikipedia, Joe.
Montiel is great, but you've now got 7 players that can play at fullback to fit at 2 positions. Tavares is okay, but he's not an upgrade on Renan Lodi. I just think that like there's definitely players I go, they're nice. I really like Ola Aina on a free. And two goalkeepers. It's just there's just not enough out to really sort of like make it work in your squad. It's a squad game, I get it, but you should have got rid of at least another 5 players to really even out that squad.
Can I ask Charlie? Because one of the ones that went slightly under the radar, but I think could potentially be one of the signings of the summer transfer window is your old boy Callum Hudson-Odoi. For me, for the deal that Forest have got for him, if he gets anywhere close to, again, another one of those players, if he gets anywhere close to his potential where he was before his injury, it was an Achilles injury, I believe.
The ruptured Achilles, same as Loftus-Cheek. Do you know what it is, right? Hudson-Odoi, 22 years of age still. It feels like he's been around for ages. If he can just rediscover his love of the game, play regular minutes, even get, as you said, even get back to half as good as he was a few years ago. There's a really good player there. You know Steve Cooper from, I think he was part of the under-17 side that won the World Cup. He's been with Cooper in the 21s and whatnot, so he knows him. And he's going to get minutes now because Brennan Johnson's gone, so I imagine he's going to play. Him and Alanga, maybe either side of a one, could be half decent. I think at £5 million, it's a gamble worth taking because the upside to that signing is so huge. So look, I think there's some good signings in there. Also think there's some signings that I don't really understand as well. And as you say, Forest have brought in, like Chelsea, a lot of players, but not a lot of not enough players have gone out the door. There's way too much competition in the fullback positions. There's a number of players that should have left that didn't leave. And as you said, a little bit like, the deadline day excitement's great for the fans and stuff, but surely you want most of your signings to come in and have as much of pre-season as possible, and they've not got that.
And this is a good point from Owen, which is why it was so late, was because we had to wait for the Brennan Johnson deal to be done. But that just highlights what I'm saying. That deal should have been sorted out much earlier on in the window. So we are at. That does downgrade us for me. Just a quick question, actually, Charlie, while I've got you, on Santos, because Santos is one that was kind of a backup for Sangare, and then we ended up getting Sangare as well. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's got so much potential. Do you see him now getting enough game time, though, now we've got Sangare in? Because he was our first choice.
I mean, you probably know better than me. I don't know how you're necessarily going to set up, but look, Santos, like that's been the worry amongst a few Chelsea fans, is that with the midfielders you've brought in Sangare and amongst others, how much is Santos really going to play? But look, I think Santos is good enough. He's going to get his opportunity. He's got to take his chance. But there's definitely a player there, he excites me. He's one of those that is got a lot of potential. Regular Premier League football is certainly going to help him develop. It just depends whether he gets it or not. But there's definitely a real talent there and someone that can certainly contribute a lot to Nottingham Forest this season. So I think it's a good move. I just don't know how much he's going to play.
John, have you got anything else to add, or should we? I think we've all decided they're not in our top four, haven't we?
I mentioned it on Beat the Drop, but being forced to bring in Chris Wood on a permanent sort of like make sure that you definitely don't make the top four.
I would have bet if I was part of the panel, I would have made him in the top.
But I do love as well that you put Chris Wood was sold on Newcastle for 20 million, and you've got him undisclosed here. That like you don't want to admit that you spent that much money.
We don't want to highlight it twice.
It'll look like 40 million. Right.
I think, I saw Wolby put a question.
I think we've got a final top four. So I'm just going to do a quick poll. While I'm doing a quick poll, guys, so this is where you take over in the chat. So I've got it down to 12. The guys have got it down to 4. The 4 are Bournemouth, West Ham, Brighton, and Spurs. Not the 4 I'd expect, but I'm just the host, so it's down to you guys now to have a vote. So I'm actually glad Forest aren't in it because we've got a lot of Forest fans in here, so we'll have actually quite a good vote now. So I'm going to get that in the chat, in the poll. While I am, Tez, can you kick off talking about who's your player of the transfer window, and then just kick it around to the boys.
Well, I don't want to nick anyone's limelight, but I've shortlisted 3 that I think will be fantastic, and I think they're good bargains as well, and I think they'll be fantastic additions to the transfer window. And that would be, for me, Moussa Diaby, James Maddison, and I would add James Ward-Prowse. Those 3 players, I think, have been 3 of the best signings this window. I'll jump on to Charlie. Charlie, have you got any different that you want to add to that list?
Mate, I totally agree with you. James Maddison, phenomenal signing. Don't need to really say too much about him. I'd also have obviously James Ward-Prowse in there. For obvious quality there as well. Who was the third one you said? So just so I don't repeat it.
I went with Moussa Diaby, James Maddison.
Moussa Diaby. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with Maddison and Ward-Prowse. There's definitely a few in there. I think Szoboszlai is a great signing. I mean, I'd probably have him up there, probably over Diaby. But yeah, for me, it's so hard to pick. But I mean, I think Szoboszlai is great. I think for me, I'll probably just go James Maddison based on his start to the season.
Mm-hmm.
Polls open, guys. John?
Yeah, I agree. Completely there. I think all those players that you picked out, I think Szoboszlai is a great shout there. I do think just because so many people I respect the opinions of rate him so highly, Sangare is right up there. We'll have to wait and see actually what he produces, obviously, because we haven't seen him kick a ball yet in the Prem. So we'll have to wait on that one. But I do think that one's a great signing, particularly for that price. And then, yeah, you mentioned the rest. Szoboszlai's a great shout from Charlie. And I think, personally, I would say Maddison, purely with the way he started the season, though, I would say.
Right. Okay. So the poll is up and running, and it's quite close. Actually, we've got Spurs at 35%, West Ham at 26%, Bournemouth 22%, and Brighton only on 15%. We did have West Ham winning, but it looks like Spurs are potentially going to take it. I'm just going to leave it open 1 more minute, guys. Anything to add?
I was going to say, are the chat putting anyone else in there? I can't see the chat saying any other teams, to be honest. So I think they're quite happy with the 4 that, even though the Forest fans aren't going to be happy that I've not chosen Forest, but I've given my reasons for it. I didn't think they made the top 4. They're in the top 5 or 6, maybe, but they don't.
I always spell Bournemouth wrong all the time. I did it earlier today, and I've done it again today. I've done it. Sorry.
I didn't spell it boring before. You spelt it boring earlier, didn't you? So yeah, you keep spelling it wrong, mate.
No, without an E. So.
Are you gonna do a little bit of a countdown to the?
Actually, it's between 2 teams now. So whoever hasn't voted, it is literally between Spurs and West Ham. Spurs are on 31% coming into the final furlong. We've got West Ham right behind them. Oh, they've dropped back. West Ham, they've dropped back slightly, and Spurs have surged ahead a bit. We're going into the last half of furlong. More votes. Anybody not voted, guys? Come on, let's get the votes in. It looks as though they're coming up to the line. It's very, very close. West Ham catching up, but it's finished. It's done. And we have a winner. Ooh. And our winner is, look at this for slickness, eh? Our winner is West Ham. The winner is West Ham. That's so slick. The winner was West Ham. So
was it?
Complete.
It was Spurs. It was Spurs. It was Spurs. And you put Spurs up as well.
Was it Spurs?
Yeah.
You did get it right.
Oh yeah, it was Spurs. Yeah, I was right. So I want to put it back on.
You were right. You just said the wrong thing.
Hold on, Spurs.
What an epic!
To be honest, that's the only thing Spurs will win this season. So I'm pleased.
Yeah, that's even silverware again.
Yeah, that can go in their cabinet.
They'll take it.
They need to give it a good dusting, but it can go in there.
Thanks again, guys. Thanks for a fantastic stream. Thank you, Ez from Forest, John from Bournemouth, and Charlie from Chelsea. Unlucky at the weekend, my friend. Thank you, chat, for being involved. Really appreciate it. Thank you for voting at the end. Remember to like and subscribe and follow these guys' channels, please. They've all got a lot of great content, even if you're not a fan of their club.
Yeah.
Take care and good night.
Come on, you Reds.